Hi, my name is Vander Von Odd. I'm a drag queen, filmmaker, and avid tight lacer, and on behalf of What Katie Did, today I'm going to be answering your questions about corsetry. Our first question is, what are the different styles of corsets? Now there's many different styles and cuts of corsets, but there's three basic shapes you should know about and look into when picking out your first corset. The first style, and oftentimes the most common you'll see, is called an overbust corset. And this is a corset that, as it sounds, will start above the bust and extend down to the hips. So it functions as sort of both bra and corset together. The second style is the one you see here, and this is the What Katie Did Morticia Extreme corset, and this is what we call an underbust. And again, as it sounds, it's a corset that starts below the bust and extends to the hips. Sometimes corsets like these will have a sort of label added to them that will say long line, and basically any corset that has long line attached to it means that it's rather tall in length and it's suited for long or tall torsos. If you are more petite or of a shorter stature, a long line corset might be a little too tall for you, meaning it might not fit the proportions of someone who is more petite as it's meant for someone who is taller. I'm also wearing an underbust, and this is the What Katie Did Vamp Extreme. The third style of corset is a waspy, and a waspy is basically an underbust that has been shortened. And waspies are great in that they allow for additional range of movement because they don't go as high up or as far down on the ribs and the hips. And they're also great for petite bodies or people of a shorter stature because they are much shorter. This is the most common question I get, and it is, does corseting hurt? Technically, no. There can be some discomfort associated with corseting, and that is when you're breaking in a brand new corset, if you wear your corset for more hours than your body is able to, etc. But they're all very circumstantial. If you have a properly broken in corset, you wear it for appropriate lengths of time, and it is well fitted for your body, and the reduction is appropriate for what your body is accustomed to, there is no pain related to wearing corsets, and there should not be any pain related to corsets. If you are wearing a corset and you're experiencing pain, then you should take it off. That's your body telling you that something is not right. It's either too tight, it's either not the right fit, or you've been wearing it for too many hours, whatever the case may be. If there is pain, just take it off. You can always put it on later. And as your body becomes, adjusted and accustomed to wearing whatever corset it is that you're wearing, it becomes easier and easier over time. I wear my corsets for many hours at a time without any issues. Prior to the pandemic, when I was able to just, go out about my day, I would even wear them for 10 plus hours. I'm also a production designer for film and television, which means I am oftentimes building sets and doing like heavy duty work. And I would still wear my corset to work. It actually functioned as a really great back brace. It kind of forced me to use my legs when lifting instead of my back. So it's very possible to wear corsets for very, very long periods of time, even with an extreme reduction, so long as you're wearing the right kind of corset and you're wearing it responsibly and listening to your body. You shouldn't feel any pain. Is it necessary to spend a lot of money on a corset? While technically it is not necessary to spend an exuberant amount of money on a corset, I do think that with corsetry, you really do get what you pay for. So what is cheap will actually end up being pretty expensive because it will not last you very long before you have to replace it. And cheaper corsets also tend to have less shape to them. They tend to be sort of square sometimes, or just have a very, very minimal reduction. So I definitely would recommend that, if you can't afford a high quality corset, just save up for it a little bit at a time and then get yourself a really nice quality corset, because a good quality corset is something that will last you a very, very long time and will give you exactly the shape that you are looking for when you see it on that website. If you go to a legitimate corset retailer or corset designer or corset company, the product you see in the photo is going to be what you get. I find that with a lot of budget corset companies or very cheap mass-produced corsets, there's a lot of manipulation of the photography and the product photos. Not to say that that's what every company does, but from my experience, many do. Oftentimes the photo that you see will look a lot curvier than the corset you actually get. So with corsets, you get what you pay for. So if you want a good corset, just save up that money and front that price tag, and I promise you, you will get something that you really love. Our next question is, what should I wear underneath my corset? Now, I strongly recommend that something always be worn beneath the corset. It doesn't have to be, but I always recommend it. Corsets do not particularly like to be washed. They, of course, can be washed, but it's not a garment that you want to be washing, every other day. So if you wear something beneath your corset, you're going to protect it from sweat and body oils and all that sort of stuff that will require you to wash it much more often. If possible, I highly recommend wearing an organic fiber beneath your corset, something that is 100% cotton or something that is of some organic material. The reason being that synthetic fibers are essentially plastic, and when you're wearing a corset, it's applying pressure to your skin and your body. So if you're wearing a synthetic fabric and the synthetic fabric is being pressed into your skin, if you're tight lacing, if you're someone with an extreme reduction, or you're someone who is corseting for many hours at a time, sometimes those synthetic fabrics can kind of like start to irritate and rub your skin a little bit raw. So if you wear organic fibers, they'll be much kinder to your skin underneath the corset. Now, that's not to say you can't wear synthetic fibers underneath your corset if you're only corseting for shorter amounts of time, or if your reduction isn't very extreme. Chances are a synthetic fiber beneath your corset won't cause too many issues. There are a lot of great corset liners out on the market, so you can just do a quick Google search and look up corset liners, and you can find basically what would be a tube of very soft, very stretchy fabric, and this can be worn beneath your corset to protect your corset and also protect your skin. How hard is it to lace up my corset? It's actually not very difficult. There's a little bit of a learning curve because there's a little bit of a technique to self-lacing yourself into your corset, but once you get the hang of it, you can get yourself in and out of your corsets really very quickly. If you have any sort of mobility issue or any sort of pain issue that limits your range of mobility, I would suggest, if possible, having someone put you into your corset and take you out of it. However, if that's not an option, there are some great tutorials on YouTube with cool tips and tricks about how to lace yourself into your corset without necessarily using your arms as much. A really old trick is to lace yourself up using a doorknob, basically attaching the laces to a doorknob and just walking forward. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but trust, once you find the way that works for you, you'll get yourself in and out of your corset very quickly. What is the best kind of corset for a petite body? If you are a petite person or you have a shorter torso, I would definitely recommend looking into a waspy corset. Another great thing about waspies is that because they are shorter in height, they allow for a wider range of movement. So if this is your first corset, it makes for a particularly comfortable corset. How long can I corset if I'm just starting out? So I typically recommend that if someone is wearing a corset for the very first time, that they try it out for maybe an hour to 2 hours, just to get the feel of it and know what it feels like and how their body moves when they are in it. Another thing to keep in mind is that corsets are almost like fabric armor, if you will. They're constructed out of very tightly woven, strong fabrics with channels of steel bones, which is what allows them to keep their shape and sort of mold the body. So when a corset is brand new, it's very sort of rigid. It's almost like having a brand new pair of leather shoes. If you've ever had a brand new pair of leather shoes, you know that the first couple of wears are a little bit achy because the leather is very rigid, but once you sort of break in that leather shoes become extremely comfortable. It's very similar with a corset. The first couple of wears are going to feel a little bit achy and a little bit rigid, but once your corset sort of softens and molds to your body, it actually becomes very comfortable to wear. For this reason, I don't recommend that people wear their brand new corset for more than 2 to 3 hours at a time, especially if they're brand new to corseting. However, if you feel completely comfortable, if there's no pain, discomfort, or anything of that sort, you're kind of free to wear your corset for as long as you'd like. The thing about corsets is that if something is wrong, your body will let you know. If something is pinching, or something's a little too tight, or something's a little too rigid, whatever the case may be, your body will immediately let you know. So really, 1 to 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours if you're brand new is sort of like a safe parameter. But if you're comfortable, you can wear it as long as you'd like. If you feel discomfort, take it off. Just listen to your body, and your body will let you know when it's time to take off the corset. This concludes our questions for today. Thank you for submitting, and I hope you found some of these answers helpful in your corseting journey. My name is Vander Von Odd, and until next time, bye.